Urban warfare is hell in a way that nothing else is. In the jungle, at least you can't see what you're destroying. In the city, you watch civilization crumble around you. Watch ancient temples become rubble. Watch homes become tombs. Watch history burn. Hue was beautiful once. I saw photographs before we went in. Ancient Vietnamese capital, temples and palaces, culture and history going back centuries. The Imperial Citadel was a monument to Vietnamese civilization. We turned it into a graveyard. My name is Marcus Hayes. I was 21 years old in January 1968, a lance corporal in the United States Marine Corps, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. I'd been in Vietnam for 3 months when the Tet Offensive started. 3 months of patrols and ambushes and firefights in the jungle. I thought I'd seen combat. Thought I knew what war was. I was wrong. What happened in Hue was different. Worse. More personal somehow. In the jungle, you fought an invisible enemy. In Hue, you saw their faces. Saw what you were doing to them and what they were doing to you. Saw everything. I grew up in Detroit. Working-class family. My father worked at Ford. Union man. Believed in America. In doing your duty. When I got drafted in 1967, he was proud. Said I was serving my country, doing the right thing. I believed him. Believed in the mission. Stopping communism. Defending freedom. All the things they told us. The things that seemed so simple back home. So black and white. Good versus evil. Vietnam made everything complicated, made everything gray. By the time I got to Hue, I'd already started questioning, started wondering what we were really doing there, what we were really fighting for. Hue destroyed what was left of my certainty about war, about duty, about what it means to be a soldier, about everything. They warned us something big was coming. Intelligence reports about enemy activity, increased movement along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. But nobody expected what happened on January 30th, 1968. Nobody expected the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong to launch coordinated attacks across South Vietnam, to attack cities, to attack during Tet, the Vietnamese New Year, when there was supposed to be a ceasefire. Nobody expected them to take Hue. We got the call on January 31st. NVA had taken most of the city. Thousands of them, dug in, fortified. American and South Vietnamese forces were pinned down. They needed Marines, needed us to go in and take the city back. We loaded into trucks thinking it would be a few days. Quick operation, clear out the enemy, move on. It took 26 days. 26 days of the worst urban combat American forces had seen since World War II. House to house, room to room, block by block. 26 days of hell. And I was there for all of it. We entered Hue on February 1st. The city was chaos. NVA and Viet Cong controlled everything south of the Perfume River except for a small May CV compound. North of the river, they held the entire citadel, the old imperial fortress with walls 20 feet high and 6 feet thick. Our orders were simple. Take back the city. Clear the enemy. Restore order. They made it sound routine. It wasn't. We moved in convoy through the southern part of the city. The streets were empty, eerily quiet. No civilians, no movement. Just abandoned streets and the smell of smoke. Then the shooting started. It came from everywhere. Rooftops, windows, alleyways. The NVA had turned the city into a fortress. Every building was a bunker. Every street corner a kill zone. They weren't running. Weren't hiding. They were dug in and ready to fight for every inch. Our convoy got hit hard. RPGs and machine gun fire. The truck ahead of me took a direct hit, exploded, men burning, screaming. We bailed out and took cover behind whatever we could find. Walls, vehicles, rubble. Sergeant Miller was yelling orders. Return fire. Find cover. Move up. His voice cutting through the chaos. We did what we'd been trained to do. Advanced toward the enemy, laid down suppressing fire, tried to maneuver. But this wasn't jungle fighting. Couldn't flank them easily. Couldn't call in airstrikes without destroying the whole city. Had to fight building by building. Had to go in and dig them out. The first building we cleared was a shop, some kind of store. The windows were blown out. The door hung at an angle. We stacked up outside. Miller counted down, kicked the door. We went in fast. 3 NVA soldiers inside, fortified position, sandbags, ammunition. They'd been waiting for us. The firefight lasted maybe 30 seconds. Felt like an hour. Close quarters. No room for mistakes. We killed them all. I checked the bodies afterward. One of them was a woman. NVA, regular, maybe 25. Dead eyes staring at the ceiling. Her rifle still in her hands. First woman I'd killed. Wouldn't be the last. We moved to the next building. Same procedure. Stack up, breach clear, enemy inside, fight, kill them or die. Move on. By the end of the first day, we'd advanced maybe 2 blocks. 2 blocks. Lost 6 men killed, dozen wounded. The NVA contested every meter, made us pay for every building. The city was being destroyed around us. Artillery fire, tank rounds, explosions everywhere, buildings collapsing, fires spreading. The ancient architecture, temples and pagodas and colonial buildings, all being reduced to rubble. We weren't liberating Hugh. We were demolishing it. Night fell, but the fighting didn't stop. The NVA would infiltrate back into buildings we'd cleared. We'd have to clear them again. Sometimes we'd be fighting in a building while the enemy was in the one next door. You could hear them through the walls, talking, moving, preparing. I didn't sleep that first night. None of us did. Just sat in a destroyed building, weapons ready, listening to the sounds of combat echoing through the streets, wondering if we'd survive the next day, wondering how many more days of this there would be. Corporal Johnson sat next to me. We'd been in the same platoon since boot camp. Friends. He was from Tennessee, always talking about his girl back home, about the wedding they'd have when his tour was up. "This is fucked, man," he said. "This is completely fucked." He was right. In the jungle, you could see the enemy sometimes, could maneuver, could use tactics. Here, they were ghosts, behind every wall, in every shadow, and we had to go to them, had to walk into their kill zones over and over. "We'll get through it," I said. Didn't believe it. But you had to say something. Johnson nodded, lit a cigarette with shaking hands. "Yeah, we'll get through it." He died the next day, shot by a sniper while crossing a street. Just dropped. Gone. No last words, no dramatic moment. Just there 1 second, dead the next. That was Hugh. Random, brutal, grinding. Men dying in ancient streets for reasons that seemed less clear every day. And we'd only just begun. The battle for Hugh dragged on. Day after day of the same nightmare. Wake up, attack, clear buildings, take casualties, hold what you've taken, try to sleep, repeat. We learned things quickly. Learned that you never went through a door if you could go through a wall. Blow a hole with C4 or a law rocket. Learned that upper floors were death traps. The NVA would be waiting. Learned to throw grenades first, ask questions never. Learned that civilians were still in the city, hiding in basements and ruins, caught between us and the NVA. Sometimes they'd run during firefights, trying to escape. Sometimes they'd get caught in the crossfire. Sometimes we couldn't tell civilian from enemy until it was too late. Week 2. We were clearing a residential area. Nice houses once. Now just hollow shells. My squad entered a compound. Courtyard, several buildings. Standard clearing procedure. We split up. I took 3 men into the main house, found a family in the back room. Old man, old woman, 3 children, hiding, terrified. They started screaming when they saw us. The old man threw himself in front of the children, thought we were going to kill them. Maybe he'd seen what some units did. Maybe he'd heard stories. Maybe he just knew what war does to people. We didn't kill them. Motioned for them to stay down, stay quiet, cleared the rest of the house, found it empty, moved on to the next building. There was an NVA position there, machine gun nest, fortified. They opened up as we approached, cut down Private Torres. He was 19, from Los Angeles, played guitar, always singing, even when we told him to shut up. He died screaming, took 20 minutes. We couldn't reach him, couldn't give him morphine, couldn't do anything but listen to him die while we tried to suppress the machine gun position. When we finally took the position, called in a tank, blew the whole building apart, we found 4 NVA soldiers dead inside. Young, maybe teenagers. They'd fought to the death defending a building that meant nothing. Tactical insignificance bought with their lives and Torres's. The family was gone when we got back to the first house. Run away during the fighting. Smart. But it made me wonder, did they make it? Did they survive? Or did they run into another firefight, another position, another group of soldiers who might not be as restrained? I'll never know. The monsoon rains came, made everything worse. Streets turned to mud. Buildings collapsed from the moisture. You couldn't keep anything dry. Couldn't keep your weapon clean. Slept in water. Fought in water. Lived in water. The bodies started piling up. Ours and theirs and civilians. No time to bury them properly. No way to evacuate them. They just lay in the streets, bloating in the rain, rotting. The smell was indescribable. Sweet and corrupt and thick. You could taste it in your mouth, in your food, in everything. We found mass graves. The NVA had executed South Vietnamese officials, police, teachers, anyone connected to the government. Hundreds of bodies, thousands maybe, hands tied, shot in the head, buried in pits. The brass used it as propaganda. See what the communists do? This is why we're fighting. But all I could think was that we were fighting in a city that was being destroyed, that civilians were dying in crossfire, that ancient history was being demolished, that everyone was losing. Week 3. We'd taken most of the southern city. Now we had to assault the citadel, the fortress, thick walls, prepared defenses, the NVA's stronghold. We went in through a breach blown by tank fire, straight into hell. The fighting inside was worse than anything before. Narrow streets, enclosed spaces. The NVA knew every inch. We were attacking blind. Lost half my squad the first day inside. Martinez, Wilson, Chen. Men I'd fought beside for months, gone. Replaced by new guys who didn't even have time to tell me their names before they got hit too. I stopped learning names, stopped making friends. What was the point? They'd just die. Everyone died eventually in Hue. It was just a matter of when. Got hit myself on day 18. Shrapnel from an RPG. Tore up my arm and side. Medic patched me up. Said I should be evacuated. I refused. Couldn't leave. Not because of duty or honor, just because stopping felt more dangerous than continuing. If I stopped fighting, I'd have to think, have to process, have to feel. Better to keep moving, keep fighting, keep killing, stay numb. We found a temple inside the citadel. Ancient, beautiful, or it had been. Now the walls were pocked with bullet holes. The statues were shattered. There were fighting positions built into the prayer halls. We cleared it room by room. Found 6 NVA soldiers defending the inner sanctum. Had to kill them in a place that was supposed to be sacred. Their blood soaked into ancient wood. Their bodies fell across altars that had stood for centuries. I knelt by one of them afterward. He was young, had a photograph in his pocket. A girl, maybe his sister or girlfriend, smiling, happy, from before the war made everything ugly. I looked at that photograph and thought about Johnson and Torres and all the others. Thought about how this NVA soldier probably had the same dreams, the same hopes, the same fear. How we were both just kids killing each other for reasons neither of us really understood. Then I put the photograph back and moved on. Because that's what you did. You killed them and you moved on. And you tried not to think about the fact that you were destroying everything. The city, the enemy, yourself. Hugh was grinding us all down, turning us into something less than human. Something that could fight and kill in the ruins of civilization without feeling anything at all. By day 20, we were down to half strength. The replacements kept coming, fresh Marines who'd never seen combat. They'd arrive in the morning. Most were dead or wounded by nightfall. Hugh ate them alive. There was no front line, no safe area. The NVA would infiltrate at night. Positions we'd secured would come under attack. You couldn't let your guard down, ever. Sleep became a luxury measured in minutes, not hours. We existed in a permanent state of exhaustion and adrenaline. The NVA fought with a fanaticism that was terrifying. They wouldn't surrender, wouldn't retreat. We'd corner them in a building and they'd fight until every last one was dead. Suicide attacks were common. They'd charge our positions knowing they'd die, but hoping to take some of us with them. It made every engagement total. Either you killed them or they killed you. No middle ground, no prisoners, just murder in ancient streets. The city was unrecognizable now. Whole blocks leveled by artillery and airstrikes. The citadel walls were crumbling. The imperial palace was rubble. Streets that had stood for centuries were cratered and destroyed. We were saving Hugh by annihilating it. I saw a kid once, maybe 10 years old, wandering through the ruins, filthy, hollow-eyed, looking for his family, probably. He saw us and ran, just terrified, and ran. Don't know what happened to him. Don't know if he survived. There were thousands like him, refugees, homeless, their city destroyed, their lives shattered, caught in a war they didn't ask for. And we couldn't help them, couldn't even help ourselves. The rain never stopped. Everything was wet, uniform, skin, weapons. We'd try to clean our M16s, but the moisture and dust would jam them anyway. Half the time, we'd use captured AKs instead, more reliable in the conditions. Picked up habits from the enemy. Started carrying grenades like they did. Started setting booby traps. Started becoming more like them every day. The line between us and them blurred. We were all just killers fighting in ruins. Got promoted to corporal on day 22. Not because I did anything special. Just because everyone senior to me was dead or evacuated. Suddenly I was responsible for a squad. New guys looking to me for leadership, for guidance, for hope I didn't have. I told them the same things Miller had told me. Keep your head down, watch your sectors. Don't trust anything. Expect contact everywhere. It was all tactical, all mechanical. I couldn't give them meaning or purpose because I'd lost both of those myself. One of the new guys, Private Davis, asked me why we were here, why we were destroying this city, what we were accomplishing. I didn't have an answer. The mission brief said we were denying the enemy a symbolic victory, said we were protecting South Vietnam, said we were stopping communism. But looking around at the devastation, at the bodies, at the homeless civilians, I couldn't see how any of that mattered. Couldn't see what we were protecting or who we were helping. Just do your job, I told Davis. Stay alive. That's all that matters. He died 2 days later, shot while clearing a building. Didn't even last a week. Just another name I'd forget. Another face that would blur with all the others. The push to take the Imperial Palace was the worst. The NVA had fortified it heavily. Every room was a fighting position. Every hallway a kill zone. It took 3 days to clear it. 3 days of room-to-room combat in a building that had been the heart of Vietnamese culture. We threw grenades into rooms full of priceless artifacts. Shot through walls decorated with ancient art. Walked across floors where emperors had walked. Left them covered in blood and brass casings. The irony wasn't lost on us. We were destroying Vietnamese heritage to save it from communism, demolishing their history to protect their future. It didn't make sense, but nothing made sense by then. Day 25. We raised the American flag over the citadel. Someone took a photograph. made it look like Iwo Jima, symbolic victory, historic moment. But we weren't heroes raising that flag. We were exhausted, traumatized killers who'd spent nearly a month destroying a city. The flag wasn't a symbol of victory. It was a marker over a graveyard. The fighting was almost over. NVA were pulling out. The city was ours. We'd won. But it felt like losing, felt like everyone had lost. The NVA, the civilians, US, Hugh itself, just different degrees of loss. I sat in the ruins that night and tried to remember what I'd believed when I first got to Vietnam, about duty, about serving my country, about making a difference. Couldn't remember. Those beliefs belonged to someone else, someone who died somewhere in these ruins, someone I used to be before Hugh turned me into this thing that could kill without feeling and survive without living. One more day, and the battle would be officially over. One more day and we could leave this nightmare city. But I knew the truth. We'd never really leave. Hugh would stay with us forever. In the nightmares, in the memories, in the guilt and trauma and knowledge of what we'd done. We'd taken the city back, but we'd lost ourselves in the process. The battle officially ended on February 26th. 26 days of urban combat. We'd retaken Hugh, driven out the NVA, accomplished the mission. The casualty reports came in. Over 200 Marines killed, 800 wounded, 10,000 NVA dead, thousands of civilians killed. The numbers were abstract, clinical. They didn't capture what it felt like, what it cost. They pulled us out of the city, sent us to a fire base to rest and refit. Hot food, clean uniforms, a chance to sleep without expecting attack. Should have been relief, should have been recovery. But I couldn't come down, couldn't relax, couldn't stop being in combat mode. I'd scan the perimeter constantly, flinch at loud sounds, wake up reaching for my rifle. 26 days of constant threat had rewired something in my brain. The new guys talked about what we'd done, talked about taking the city, about our victory, made it sound heroic, made it sound like something to be proud of. I couldn't listen to it, couldn't stomach the disconnect between their words and my memories, between the story they were telling and the reality I'd lived. There was no glory in Hugh. Just survival bought with blood and sanity. They gave us 3 days at the firebase, then sent us back out on patrol, back into the jungle, back to the war. Like Hugh had been just another operation, just another mission to check off and move on from. But I couldn't move on, couldn't leave it behind. Every patrol, I'd be back in those streets. Every firefight, I'd see Johnson falling, see Torres dying, see that NVA soldier with the photograph. We walked into an ambush in March. Standard jungle shit. Nothing like Hugh. We took fire, returned fire, broke contact. Textbook. But I froze. Just stopped functioning. Couldn't move. Couldn't shoot. Couldn't do anything. Just stood there while rounds snapped past. Sergeant Williams had to drag me to cover, screamed at me. What the fuck, Hayes? You trying to get killed? Maybe I was. Maybe part of me had given up in Hugh. Maybe I'd left something essential in those ruins and couldn't function without it. They sent me to see a chaplain. He talked about trauma, about how combat affects the mind, about how it was normal to struggle after what we'd been through. Normal. Like there was anything normal about Hugh. Like you could experience that level of horror and come out the other side intact. He asked if I wanted to talk about it, about what I'd seen, what I'd done. I told him about the temple, about killing those NVA soldiers in a sacred space, about how wrong it felt, how sacrilegious. He said God understood, that I was doing my duty, that those men were the enemy, that I shouldn't feel guilty. But guilt wasn't the problem. The problem was that I didn't feel guilty enough, that I could kill in a temple and feel nothing, that I'd become so numb that murder in a holy place was just another tactical problem to solve. The problem was that Hugh had broken something fundamental in me, some basic capacity for feeling, for caring, for being human in any meaningful way. I stopped talking to the chaplain after that, stopped talking to anyone, just did my job, went on patrols, followed orders, existed day to day without really living. Letters came from home. My mother writing about Detroit, about family news, about her prayers for my safety. She said she was proud of me, said the whole neighborhood was proud. I read those letters and felt nothing, couldn't connect to that world, couldn't imagine going back to it. The person she was writing to didn't exist anymore, had died in Hugh along with Johnson and Torres and all the others. Davis's parents wrote to me. I'd been his squad leader when he died. They wanted to know about him, about his last days, about whether he'd suffered, whether he'd been scared. I wrote back lies, said he'd been brave, said he'd died quickly, said he'd talked about them at the end. All lies. Truth was, I barely knew him. He'd been just another replacement, just another body that went into Hugh and didn't come out. But I couldn't tell them that. Couldn't tell them their son had been meaningless. Just another casualty in a battle that accomplished nothing, that destroyed a city to save it, that broke everyone who fought in it. My tour was supposed to end in November. 8 more months. 8 more months of patrols and firefights and pretending to be functional while falling apart inside. I volunteered to extend another 6 months. They were happy to have me. Experienced Marines were valuable. They didn't ask why. Truth was, I didn't know what else to do. Couldn't imagine going home. Couldn't face trying to be normal again. The war was hell, but at least I understood it. Understood the rules. Understood my purpose. Going home meant facing all the things I'd become. All the things I'd done. All the humanity I'd lost. Easier to stay. Easier to keep fighting. Easier to keep pretending this was all there was. My mother wrote asking why I'd extended, said she didn't understand, said she just wanted me home, safe, with family. I didn't write back, didn't know how to explain, didn't know how to tell her that her son had died in Hugh, that what remained wasn't safe to bring home, wasn't fit for family or normal life, that I'd become a broken thing that only knew how to fight and kill and survive in a world that made no sense, that Hugh had destroyed me as thoroughly as it had destroyed the city itself. I finally came home in 1970, 2 tours, 26 months in Vietnam, survived Hugh and everything that came after, made it home with all my limbs and no visible wounds. The invisible ones were another story. I flew into Travis Air Force Base, landed in California, American soil. Should have felt like salvation, like escape. Instead, it felt like exile, like I was being sent to a foreign country where I didn't speak the language or understand the customs. There were protesters at the airport, anti-war demonstrators. They saw the uniform, started yelling, called me baby killer, called me murderer, spit at me. I just walked past them, couldn't even be angry. They were right, after all. I had killed, had destroyed, had done things in Hugh that would haunt me forever. Maybe I deserved their hate. Maybe we all did. Detroit was the same and completely different. Same streets, same buildings. But everything felt alien, too clean, too peaceful, too normal. People going about their lives like the world wasn't burning, like there wasn't a war happening, like Hugh hadn't happened. My family tried. God, they tried. Welcome home dinner. Questions about the war. Attempts to help me readjust. But how do you readjust? How do you go from urban combat to dinner table conversation? From killing daily to working a normal job? My father wanted to know about my service, about the battles, about what I'd done. I told him about Hugh, tried to explain what it had been like, the house-to-house fighting, the casualties, the destruction. He listened, then said he was proud of me, said I'd done my duty, served with honor. Honor, that word. Like there was honor in what we'd done. Like destroying a city was honorable. Like killing in temples and watching friends die and becoming a monster was something to be proud of. I stopped talking to him after that. Stopped talking to everyone. Got a job at a factory, night shift, kept to myself. Built a life of isolation and routine. The nightmares came every night, still come. I'm back in Hugh, in those narrow streets, clearing buildings, watching Johnson fall, finding that family hiding, killing in the temple, the city burning around me. I wake up and I'm 71 years old and it's been over 50 years since Hugh. But in my head, I'm still there, still 21, still fighting, still dying a little more every day. I've had relationships, brief ones. They always end the same way. I can't connect, can't open up, can't let anyone see what's inside because what's inside is Hugh, is death and destruction and moral wasteland. Who wants to be with that? Who wants to love a man who's been dead inside since 1968? I see therapists sometimes. They talk about PTSD, about treatment, about healing. They mean well, but you can't heal from Hugh. Can't process that level of destruction. Can't therapize your way back to being whole when fundamental parts of you were blown apart in those streets. The war ended in 1975. We lost all that death, all that destruction, for nothing. Vietnam unified under communist rule anyway. Everything we'd fought for, everyone who died, all meaningless. I watched it on TV, the fall of Saigon, helicopters evacuating the embassy, the North Vietnamese taking the city, and I felt nothing. Not vindication, not anger, just emptiness. We'd destroyed Hugh to save it, destroyed ourselves to save Vietnam, and in the end, we lost anyway. The mathematics of futility. They built a memorial in Washington, the Wall, names of everyone who died in Vietnam, over 58,000 names. I went once, found Johnson's name, Torres, all the others from my squad, ran my fingers over the carved letters and tried to feel something, grief, sadness, anything. But there was just emptiness. I'd cried all my tears in Vietnam, had nothing left. A woman standing nearby saw my tears. I was crying without feeling it, body remembering what the mind couldn't. She thanked me for my service, said she was sorry for what we'd been through. I wanted to tell her the truth, that I didn't deserve thanks, that I'd helped destroy a beautiful city, that I'd killed people who were probably just defending their country like I was supposedly defending mine, that the war had made monsters of all of us. But I just nodded and walked away. I'm 71 now. Hugh happened 55 years ago, more than half a century. Most of my life lived after that battle, a whole lifetime of trying to be normal, trying to forget, trying to heal. Haven't succeeded at any of it. Hugh is still with me. Every day, every night, every moment. I see those streets, smell the smoke and rot, hear the gunfire and screaming, feel the weight of what we did there. Urban warfare is hell in a way nothing else is. In the jungle, at least you can't see what you're destroying. In the city, you watch it all burn. Watch history and culture and humanity reduced to rubble. We took back Hugh, won the battle, completed the mission. The official reports call it a tactical victory, a successful operation, a demonstration of American military resolve. They're wrong. There was no victory in Hugh, just mutual destruction, just two sides grinding each other and the city into dust, just young men killing and dying in ancient streets for reasons that made less sense every day. I survived Hugh. My body made it out. But everything else, my humanity, my hope, my belief in anything good or meaningful, that all died there, buried in the rubble, lost in the ruins. Sometimes I think about that NVA soldier in the temple, the one with the photograph. Wonder if he was like me, just a kid caught in something bigger than himself, fighting because he was told to, dying far from home. We were enemies. I killed him. But we were also the same. Both of us victims of a war neither of us fully understood. Both of us destroyed by Hugh in our own ways. The city was rebuilt. I saw pictures, temples restored, streets repaired, life going on. Hugh exists again, thriving, beautiful, full of people who don't remember or weren't alive when we turned it into hell. But I remember, can't forget, won't forget. 55 years, and it's still the most real thing in my life, more real than anything that came after. I fought in the streets of Hugh, survived 26 days of urban combat, came home with my life, but I left my soul there, in those ruins, in that destroyed city, in the temple where I killed men while ancient Buddhas watched. It's still there, still buried in rubble that was cleared away decades ago, still lost in a city that no longer exists except in the nightmares of old men who can't forget. We destroyed Hugh to save it, and destroyed ourselves in the process. 55 years later, I'm still fighting in those streets, still watching my friends die, still becoming the monster the war needed me to be. Still in Hugh, always in Hugh, forever in Hugh. We never really left.